A very nice Muslim and I were having a conversation recently, and I asked him why he believed Islam was true. And he said the easiest reason is the Tawhid, the oneness of God. And he said among other reasons as well. So I want to tackle his primary reason with regards to why he thought it was true. So it's necessary for us to define Tawhid. It says Tawhid in Arabic means attributing oneness to Allah and describing him as being one and unique with no partner or peer in his essence and attributes. So here it's affirming Tawhid and rejecting shirk. But I want to show you this is not actually what the Islamic literature teaches with regards to God. So it's necessary for us to first and foremost understand what we're going to deal with the Quran. It says, saying that the Quran or the word of Allah is eternal is acceptable if it means Allah's speech is uncreated and revealed by his will. However, it is safer to use the precise wording of early generations to avoid confusion. If someone claims that Allah's words are not subject to his will, then this view is incorrect and constitutes an incorrect. So the understanding is that the Quran is eternal because it's the speech of Allah that comes out of Allah. And we can see this in the Quran itself. In Surah chapter 5, verse 21 and 22, it says, "Nay, this is the glorious Quran inscribed on the preserved tablet." So the Quran is in heaven, preserved on a tablet. So once again, the Quran is eternal because it's in heaven, and it's also comes forth from Allah because it's his eternal speech. But the issue is that the Quran actually appears as a man. We can see in Sunan Ibn Majah 3781, it was narrated from Ibn Buddha that the father told that the messenger of Allah said, "The Quran will come on the day of resurrection like a pale man, and will say, I am the one who kept you awake at night and made you thirsty during the day." So here the Quran takes a physical form and is able to speak, which means if it's able to speak and take a physical form, it has the qualities of personhood. Let's continue on. Now we can look at Sahih Muslim 805. It says, "On the day of resurrection, the Quran and those who acted according to it will be brought with Surah Al-Baqarah and Al-Imran preceding them. The Messenger of Allah likened them to three things, which I did not forget afterwards. He, the Holy Prophet, likened them to two clouds or two black canopies with light between them, or like two flocks of birds in ranks pleading for the one who recited them." So here once again we can see that the Quran is supposed to come and plead for individuals, who once again shows the necessity for personhood because it can recall people's names, and it pleads before Allah for the Muslim. So what does this tell us? It tells us that here we can see that the chapters of the Quran, like I said, will plead on behalf of the believers. So if this is taken to its logical conclusion, this shows that the Quran has 114 personalities pertaining to the 114 surahs. So there is one pale man, the Quran, who also possesses 114 personalities within himself. Let's continue on. Now we need to deal with the Spirit of Allah. This is in chapter 19, verse 16 and 17. He says, "And mention the book, the Quran, O Muhammad." And Muhammad's not actually in the text there. But it says, "When she withdrew in seclusion from her family to a place facing east, she placed a screen to screen herself from them. Then we sent our Spirit, and he appeared before her in the form of a man in all respects." So here, of course, you're going to see that I marked it out, but the translators have put Gabriel in there, but that's not actually what the Arabic text says. The Arabic text literally says "our Spirit." Then he assumed for the likeness of her, the likeness of a man. So it's clear that the Spirit takes on the form of a man and speaks to Mary. So once again, we can see that the Spirit has the capability to communicate, and therefore it once again shows the essence of having a personhood. But let's continue on and see what else we find. We can see in verse 18 and 19 it says, "She said, Verily I seek refuge with the Most High from you, if you do fear Allah." Then it says, "He said, I'm only a messenger from your Lord, that I bestow on you a pure son." So here the Spirit gives Mary a pure son. So the Spirit is the one who creates within Mary the pure son. So here we can see that the Spirit has the ability to create life. And that obviously causes a problem between for Islam, because Islam claims that Allah is the only one who can create, but here we can clearly see that the Spirit has the power to intermarry and create the pure Son, which is Jesus. Let's continue on. We can also see in Surah chapter 66, verse 12, it says, and notice it says, and Mary, the daughter of Imran, who guarded her chastity, and we breathed into, and the Arabic does not actually say her sleeve, that's just a interpretation from the translators, through our spirit, of course. See, so the Arabic does say spirit. It says, and she testified to the truth of the words of her Lord, in the words of Allah, be, and he was, that is, Jesus, son of Mary, as a messenger of Allah, and also believe in the scriptures, and she was of the obedient to Allah. So here we can clearly see that they're trying to squirm Gabriel back into this thing, but that's simply not the case. And so that's why it's necessary for us to see that verses 17 and 18 of chapter 19 to show that the Spirit was the one who actually impregnated Mary, because it says, of course, here it says that we gave part of our spirit to her. So that would indicate that the Spirit goes forth from Allah, and that if the Spirit goes forth from Allah, that whatever proceeds from Allah is eternal. So therefore the Spirit is eternal as well. Let's continue on. Now, with regards to people claiming that this might be Gabriel, the Spirit, that's not actually the case, because if you look at chapter 2, verse 97 of the Quran, it says, whoever is an enemy to Jibril, you can even see the Arabic there, Jibril, you can see the Arabic's different from the Spirit down there in chapter 66, verse 12. So it's clear that the Arabic shows a distinction between Gabriel and the Spirit. So for those who think that Gabriel is the Spirit, that is not correct. Let's continue on. We can see in Surah chapter 70, verse 4, it says, the angels and the Spirit, of course not Gabriel, ascend to him in a day, the measure wherefore is 50,000 years. So clearly, once again, we can see that the Spirit is mentioned, and it's not Gabriel. Let's continue on. Now we can look at Surah chapter 78, verse 38. It says, the day and the Spirit and the angels will stand forth in rows. They will not speak except him whom the most gracious Allah allows, and he will speak what is right. So here we can clearly see that the texts differentiate between the Spirit and the angels because they stand in different rows. Let's continue on. If Gabriel was truly the Spirit, as the translators claim, this will be a great place for Allah to tell Muhammad that. But what do we find here in chapter 17, verse 85? It says, and they ask you, O Muhammad, corresponding to the Spirit, say, the Spirit is one of these things, the knowledge of which is only with my Lord, and of knowledge we, mankind, have been given very little. So they're saying they really don't know what's going on with the Spirit, but it's not Gabriel. So what are we left with here? So we have Allah being eternal. We also have the Spirit being eternal, coming forth from Allah. We also have the speech of Allah, the Quran, being eternal. So once again, we are left with three eternal persons in Islam: of course, God, Allah, the Quran, and the Spirit of Allah. But they're also distinct persons from Allah. So what do we have? We have an Islamic Trinity, which means that the doctrine of the oneness of God, Tawhid, is necessarily false.